In the previous class, we had learnt how the bile juice, the pancreatic juice and the intestinal juice complete the process of digestion in the small intestine. Now once the digestion is complete, what is the next process? So the next process is absorption. So let us see how it happens and where it happens. Now children, you have learnt that the complete process, that is the digestion is completed in the small intestine. Now once the digestion is completed in the small intestine, the digested food has to be absorbed by the body, isn't it? So how does this happen? Again, the small intestine itself helps in, or from the small intestine, the digested food is absorbed by the body, or it reaches to different parts of the body. So let us see how this absorption works in the small intestine. What is it that is present in the small intestine which helps in absorption of food? Now, the inner wall of the small intestine has thousands of finger-like projections called villi. What are they called? Villi, and they are finger-like projections. Now what is the function of this villi? There are thousands of them present on the inner wall of the small intestine. So what is the function of this villi? The villi increases the surface area for the absorption of the digested food. So what does it do? It increases the surface area for the absorption of the digested food. Each villus has a network of thin small blood vessels close to its surface. Very close to its surface, it has got very thin blood capillaries, blood vessels. And the absorbed substances are transported through the blood to the different parts of the body. So it is this blood which actually absorbs the digested food and takes it to the different parts of the body. Here, I would like you to observe a simple experiment. Observe the experiment carefully and then we will discuss.
Now let's see what will the intestine do to increase the maximum absorption. I've just taken two cloths, and if you can see, this cloth is having a lot of these additional threads which is coming from the cloth. Okay, so I'll just dip each cloth one by one in water, let it soak completely. I have taken it out now and I'll just squeeze it in a container. Okay, and we will take it in one of the beaker and let's see how much water it contains. It is approximately 20 ml. Okay, now let's do it with the other cloth. Okay, let it soak completely. Alright, let all the water drip. Okay, now let's squeeze it. Let's take it in another beaker. And if you see, the volume has increased almost threefold. It's about more than 60 ml in the other case. So just by having this microvilli like structure in the intestine, this kind of structure which you see in this cloth, the intestines can absorb a lot of nutrients.
So we see that the small intestine works on the same principle as this towel with lot of threads, projections. The digested and absorbed food is then used to build complex substances like proteins. So once this digested food is used to build the proteins required for the body, so this process is called assimilation. What is it called? Assimilation. And in the cells what happens? Glucose breaks down with the help of oxygen into carbon dioxide and water, and energy is released. So this digested food, it combines with oxygen in the cells and gives out carbon dioxide and water, and also it releases energy. This energy is utilized by the body to do various work. Is it clear, children? The energy that is released by the combination, by combining, when the food combines with oxygen, the energy that is released is used to perform all the various activities. Now children, tell me, do you think all the food that we consume is digested and assimilated in our body? Do you think so? Whatever we eat, everything is consumed by the body? It is all digested? Or do you think something is remaining? It remains undigested? So the food that we eat, some part of the food that we eat does not get digested. Now what happens to this undigested food? Can we just keep it in our body? No, it has to be thrown out, isn't it? So what happens? The undigested food from the small intestine, all the complete digestion takes place, and whatever food is digested is absorbed by the body. Now the undigested food cannot be absorbed, isn't it? It has to be thrown out of the body. So where does it go from the small intestine? The undigested food, which is still in a semi-liquid form, okay? It is still in a semi-liquid form, it enters the large intestine. Where does it go from the small intestine? It goes into the large intestine. Now what happens in the large intestine, and how is this large intestine? Large intestine is wider and shorter than the small intestine. So you can look at the picture there. You can see that the large intestine is broader, wider and shorter than the small intestine. It is about 1.5 meters long, whereas the small intestine was about 7.5 meters long. But the large intestine is about 1.5 meters long. Now what is the function of this large intestine? The undigested food, which is in a semi-liquid form, has entered the large intestine. So what happens in the large intestine? In the large intestine, so water and some salts are absorbed back into the body from the undigested food. And the remaining waste, once the water is absorbed, it becomes a solid waste. So this waste, the remaining waste, passes into the rectum. Where does it pass to? It passes into the rectum. The undigested matter is now in a semi-solid form. So once the water is absorbed back into the body, it becomes a semi-solid form. The undigested food or the waste matter, which is also called the fecal matter, is removed through the anus from time to time. So we cannot keep that in our body, isn't it? The waste matter has to be removed from our body. It has to be thrown out of the body. So at regular intervals, this matter, the waste, the undigested food is thrown out of the body through the anus. Okay? So this process of removing waste matter from the body is called egestion. What is it called? It is called egestion. So children, with this, we have learned completely how the food is taken in, digested, absorbed, assimilated, and it is also thrown out of the body. So the complete process of digestion in human beings you have learnt in this chapter. Now let us see how digestion takes place in grass-eating animals. So grass-eating animals, what are those? Basically you can talk about cows, buffaloes, deer. And the common thing what we see around us is the cows and the buffaloes. So how does digestion takes place in these animals? Just let us have a look at it. Now children, if we generally see the cows or the buffaloes, you generally see them sitting in one place and they go on chewing, isn't it? They are continuously chewing. We don't know what they are chewing, but they are chewing. And why do you think they do that? Why do they keep moving their mouth? What do they do? The animals, while eating grass, So these animals, when they go and eat grass, they eat the food given to them. They do not chew the food. What do? They don't chew the food. They just swallow. They cut it and they swallow the grass and store it in a part of the stomach called the rumen. So you can see on the picture, you can see on the slide over there, the part of the digestive system. There's a part called rumen. So the grass which is swallowed, while eating it just gobbles the food, like it swallows, and it is stored in the rumen. Here the food gets partially digested. So in the rumen, the food gets partially digested. It is not completely digested. It only is partially digested. And that partially digested food is called the cud. What is it called? It is called the cud. Now this cud later returns to the mouth in small lumps. So the half digested food comes back to the mouth in small quantities, and the animal keeps chewing it. So that is why they are also called as cud chewing animals. What are they called? They are also called as cud chewing animals. Do you remember that? You have studied when you were in the lower classes. So this process is called rumination. What is it? Bringing back the food, that is the cud, when it comes back to the mouth in small quantities and the animal chews it. This complete process is called as rumination, and these animals are called as ruminants. What are they called? They are called as ruminants. Example, all grazing animals such as cows, buffaloes, deer, etc. are called as ruminants. Now what do these animals basically eat? They eat mainly small plants and grass which are rich in cellulose. Okay, what is cellulose? These plants and grass are rich in cellulose. So what is the cellulose? Cellulose is a type of carbohydrate. What is it? It's a type of carbohydrate. So how are they digested? So these animals, they have a bacteria present in rumen. In their digestive system, in the part of rumen, they have a kind of bacteria which helps in digesting this cellulose. Okay. So, and whereas the other animals do not have this bacteria, which means only these ruminants are able to digest cellulose, which is a carbohydrate, and other animals, including human beings, we cannot digest cellulose. We cannot eat cellulose and digest it. It will be thrown out of the body as undigested food. So children, so far we have discussed how digestion takes place in animals which possess a digestive system. But there are other lower organisms also, isn't it, which do not possess a digestive system. I mean, you have studied about all unicellular organisms. That is, the entire animal is just one single cell. Do you think there will be a digestive system in that? There is no particular digestive system because the entire animal is just made up of only one cell. So let us see what happens in such organisms, that is in unicellular organisms. And what you have studied a unicellular organism is an amoeba. You are all familiar with amoeba, isn't it, children? I think you have also seen the slides of amoeba. Very small, very minute, microscopic they are. Even through the microscope they look so tiny. So let us see how digestion takes place in these tiny organisms. Okay? So children, you have learnt already that amoeba is a small microscopic organism and made up of a single cell. And does it have a definite shape? No, amoeba does not have a definite shape. It has a cell membrane, and in the center you can see a round nucleus. There are some small vacuoles, and all these are present in a jelly-like substance called the cytoplasm. Okay. And how does this amoeba move? It puts out its body with small finger-like projections, which is called as pseudopodia or the false feet. So it extends and then it moves ahead. Alright? Now children, this entire animal is just a unicellular organism that is just made up of a single cell. Do you have any idea how it takes in food and digests it also? So these animals, they live in water, ponds, lakes. So when it senses food, what does it do? It pushes out the pseudopodia and moves towards the food. And what does it do? It pushes the pseudopodia around the food particle and engulfs it along with a drop of water. So this engulfing of food is called ingestion. What is it called? Ingestion. The food gets trapped in a food vacuole. Inside the body, it just takes in the food. So that is trapped in a food vacuole. Then what happens inside the food vacuole? There are certain digestive enzymes are secreted and it acts on the food, breaking it into simpler substances. So enzymes are secreted and it acts on the food and breaks it into simpler substances. So the digestion has taken place inside the food vacuole. Now the digested food is slowly absorbed and utilized by the cell. Okay? The food that is digested is absorbed and utilized by the cell. And this absorbed food is used for growth, maintenance, and reproduction, multiplication of the animal, reproduction of the animal. So what happens to the undigested food? Now this undigested food, it remains in the food vacuole only, and slowly the food vacuole moves towards the cell membrane, and the cell membrane opens and the undigested food is thrown out of the body. So this process is called egestion. Alright. So you see here, ingestion has taken place. After ingestion, digestion has taken place in the food vacuole itself. Then you also see after digestion, absorption has taken place. Assimilation also has taken place. And now the undigested food is thrown out of the body. So egestion is also done. A single cell, all the process of nutrition is performed. So you can just look at the picture on the screen, children. You can see the picture with all the process of nutrition over there. You can see how the amoeba takes in food, digests it, and the waste is also thrown out of the body. So what we have learned so far is whether it is a unicellular organism or an animal with a proper digestive system, the basic process of digestion of food and release of energy is the same in all animals. So all animals, whether they are minute or they are multicellular organisms, they all take in food, they digest it, and the digested food is absorbed to release energy to do various functions of the body. Is it clear? I hope you have understood the lesson completely regarding absorption of the digested food in human beings, digestion in grass-eating animals and feeding, and digestion in amoeba. Let us once recall whatever we have learnt today. Now look at the important points or the points to remember. The first one, the inner wall of the small intestine has thousands of finger-like projections called villi. Villi increases the surface area for absorption of the digested food. The digested and absorbed food is used to build complex substances like proteins. This is called assimilation. Excess water and salts are absorbed from the undigested food in the large intestine. Waste matter is passed into the rectum and thrown out of the body through the anus. This is called egestion. The grazing animals like cows, buffaloes, deer are known as ruminants. They quickly ingest, swallow their leafy food and store it in the rumen. Later, the food returns to the mouth and the animal chews it peacefully. Amoeba ingests its food with the help of false feet or pseudopodia. The food is digested in the food vacuole. I hope all of you have understood, children, the lesson well. There are a few questions which I am giving you as assignment, homework. I want you to think and answer these questions. Okay? The first question is, what are villi? What is their location and function? That is, where do you find this villi and what is its function? Second question, name the type of carbohydrate that can be digested by ruminants but not by humans. Name the type of carbohydrate that can be digested by ruminants but not by humans. The third question, write one similarity and one difference between the nutrition in amoeba and human beings. Write one similarity and one difference between the nutrition in amoeba and human beings. So please think carefully and think properly and write the answers carefully. Okay? Do not get confused. If you have any doubt, you can watch the video again. Now the next main is match the following. So there are two columns, one with all the glands and the organs and what does it do, functions. On column A you have salivary glands, stomach, liver, rectum, small intestine, large intestine. In column B you have bile juice secretion, storage of undigested food, saliva secretion, acid release, digestion is completed and absorption of water. So match the following. You can see and write properly. You can match it correctly. Children, we have completed this chapter on nutrition in animals. On 28th of July, we will have a test, a unit test on this chapter. So I request you all to go through all the videos once again and get prepared for the test. Okay? I repeat again, you will have a test on 28th of this month. So please go through the lesson and prepare for the test thoroughly. Thank you, children.